Welcome back to another video. As you read by the title, we just got back from Evil Dead Rise. Man, that film, I'm just going to simply put, as an Evil Dead fan, you are going to really enjoy, appreciate, and respect this film because Lee Cronin, the director of the film, truly knows how to craft an Evil Dead movie. Now, whether Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell gave their input, I'm sure they did, as executive producers. But this film screams Evil Dead through and through from start to finish. Honest to God. It was so...
groovy.
As a big Evil Dead franchise fan, you are going to like the movie. Go out, see it. Definitely watch it in theaters. Support this film. It was so much fun, and I would love to see a sequel. And they do kind of sequel bait at the end, but we'll get there later. But anyway, to preface the rest of this video, I just want to let y'all know this isn't a professional critique review. I give all of my own personal biases. I give all my opinions, thoughts, and what I thought overall of the movie. We'll score it at the end. I will be discussing spoilers, so keep that in mind. But I will say from the start, as an Evil Dead fan, watch it, you'll love it, it's awesome. As a typical moviegoer, a horror fan, especially a horror fan, you probably won't enjoy this movie nearly as much. Anyway, movie screams character, movie screams creativity, goofiness, campiness, horrific creativity. It is tense, very intense actually. The first half hour of the film I thought was really well done, very intense. And I really only have one complaint, and that's towards the end of the film. But as I said, we will be discussing spoilers, so let's hop right into it. I've already wasted 3 minutes of y'all's time. Anyway, to start off, first 15-20 minutes in, we get that classic shot while we're getting, the pre-movie credits roll, right? Who it's produced by, all that stuff. And it's that dead-eye POV going through the woods, but something's off. It doesn't feel quite right. It's not nearly as fast. It doesn't seem as fluid. Something doesn't seem right. So they prank you. It's a drone flown by some teenager kid on a dock with 2 other teenage girls. One's like sick in bed. We'll get there. And then another one is just like the one kind of running back and forth, seeing what's going on. The dude's kind of just drunk out of it, whatever. The girl goes back into the cabin in the woods. And I think, don't quote me, but I think the location where that T-shaped house was at the very beginning of the film, I really do think that might be one of the original locations for the cabin in the woods. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if it isn't, it really mirrors the whole cabin in the woods thing from the first 2 Evil Dead films. I mean, it looks spot on. Aside from the house itself, everything else looks identical almost. But anyway, maybe not as much foliage, but regardless, you get that shot. And then the brunette girl goes into the house, talks to the blonde one, and oh no, turns out the blonde one can read the book she's reading without even looking at it, without even looking in her direction. Why? Deadeye. They just can do that, That's just how they operate. It's awesome. But anyway, that kind of opens up the movie. The girl gets scalped. It's not too much of a spoiler, straight from the trailer. But like I said, we're discussing spoilers. So anyway. That opens the movie. Sweet title card, by the way. Girl comes out of the water, obviously possessed by a deadite after killing both the friends, and just like rises out of the water. And as she rises out of the water, boom, Evil Dead Rise rises behind the hills behind her. Very creative. I mean, that is the creativity that Evil Dead is known for. Those creative shots, those creative jokes, and the creative gore and action, and it's so thorough. It's awesome. Lee Cronin did a terrific job, in my opinion. And any input that Sam Raimi or Bruce Campbell gave him was spot on. If you're going to take any hints for how to create an Evil Dead movie, it's those 2 guys. 100%. But anyway, as the film progresses, we meet all the new characters. Ellie, Beth, Danny, Cassie, and Bridget. I think those are the ones that played the 3 girls, the sister, and the mom. So Ellie, Alyssa Sutherland as the mom, Ellie, killed it. Dude, she's terrifying. She did such a great job. Now, I wasn't scared out of my seat. It's an Evil Dead film. I'm not going to get completely scared, which kind of brings me back to that point I made earlier where if you're an Evil Dead fan, you'll love the movie because you know what to expect. If you're a typical horror movie watcher, you might not appreciate it as much, but she killed it. And she looked like she had so much fun in this role, just being goofy and campy and like terrifying and tense, intense. But she looked like she was having a blast, so that was contagious for me. I thought I just had a stupid grin on my face every time she was on screen as a Deadite. She killed it as a Deadite. But Beth, I love her, man. At the beginning, I'm like, oh, okay, some random character I really don't care about. She goes through all the trials and tribulations that Ash goes through. I mean, almost the parallels they draw from 1 and 2 Evil Dead, very apparent. I mean, she sees people get murdered and slashed like it's nothing. People getting thrown around like a sack of potatoes, like it's nothing. You know, a flick of a Deadite's finger and some dude's head's chopped off. And I don't think anybody's head got chopped off in the film, but you get what I'm saying. Anyway, I think Beth might be the new generation version of Ash. I don't actually quote me on that, because if that's what they end up going for, I want to be the one that was right in saying that. But I think Beth is going to be the new Ash. She goes through everything, and it's believable, and she's not shoehorned in. She's interesting. She's given depth. She's going to be a mom, right? She's all on her own. She's just this groupie guitar technician, right? And she killed it. I mean, she sees people die, her loved ones. Everybody she loves almost gets slaughtered. The kids from the trailer, don't expect them to be around long. They get massacred, and it was awesome.
You're gonna have to call the fucking United Nations and get a fucking binding resolution to keep me from fucking destroying you. I am talking scorched earth, motherfucker. I will massacre you. I will fuck you up.
The Boomstick makes a great appearance. As soon as the old man that was with the black gentleman, I can't remember, I don't know their names, but as soon as the old man was like, go grab my shotgun, I was like, double barrel, baby, please do it. And then we see him run through the hall, and what do you know? You see the line right through the barrel. You got the double, baby. It was the Boomstick. It was perfect.
For that arrogance, I shall see you dead.
Yeah. All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. See this? This is my Boomstick!
And then you get the chainsaw, obviously, towards the end of the film, which was awesome, and I very much appreciated that. But the actors, everybody did a fantastic job. I don't think anybody, shoehorned in a performance. Everybody really did a terrific job. So yeah, I really appreciated that. But as the film progresses, we get a lot of creativity. Ellie, when she's possessed by the Deadite, like, rips some dude's eyeball out with her bare teeth, gags on it, poof, spits it out, goes right down some kid's throat, and then he goes like, and he starts choking and he dies on it. I laughed so hard, and my theater was crowded, and I felt like me and like this other guy I talked to right at the end of the film, seeing how he liked it, because I could tell he was way more into the franchise like I am. So him and I were like the only two laughing at like, the appropriate Evil Dead jokes, Evil Dead themed jokes, where somebody's getting murdered in just such a ridiculous overkill way. And it's just so goofy and campy and funny, and it's just awesome. And it shouldn't be, but it is. And that's just, that's the Evil Dead formula, and it's perfect here. And so, I talked to him. He loved it too. But, we get a kill like that, or we get, a bunch of people get impaled. I was really surprised to see how many people got impaled. Beth gets her hand impaled. She doesn't get it chopped off, but she gets it impaled like Ash did. Ash gets it but chopped off, but, Beth, just impaled. Anyway, regardless, so she's walking around kind of, a little handicapped because of the hand. So that was cool because I was like, uh-oh, Ash reference, not entirely, but just enough to where you're like, oh, yeah, baby. And yeah, they connect this film, like they do their own thing. And it's not a complete reboot because they actually do connect this film to the original films. In Army of Darkness specifically, when Ash is, on a quest to go find the Necronomicon, right? He encounters 3 books. Those 3 books, they just made extremely more significant. In Army of Darkness, they're just a gag. He goes through one, he comes back out, and he's all lengthy, and he's got to, like, shake it off, and it's all just super goofy, campy comedy, right? But in this film, they actually connect all 3. Not only was that a gag in Army of Darkness, now it's got more importance than ever moving forward for the franchise. I'm going to assume Ash has the 1.0 Necronomicon that we saw in the original movies. The 2013 girl, can't remember her name, she's got the 2.0 Necronomicon, is just what I'm going to call it. And the girls in this film have the 3rd. And I really like how they tied it all together. It was really cool. They also introduced the Necronomicon in just about an identical way as to the first and second movie. More in line with the second film, though, because they play the vinyl. They play the record in Evil Dead 2. The record. They play the record in Evil Dead 2. They play the record here, the vinyl. And it talks about the book and what the book is capable of, what the book is made out of: human flesh, blood, horror, tears, all that stuff. It is a Book of the Dead, through and through. And while the vinyl is playing, it actually, while the priest is talking, you hear one priest in the background, which it was Bruce Campbell. You can't mistake his voice for anybody else's. But he goes, "It's called the Book of the Dead for a reason." And I was in the theater like, oh, there he is. Because, Ash's voice. It's so distinctive. So it was him. But anyway, he plays one of the priests. You hear him. It was awesome. I loved that. Especially coming from him. It's like, if anybody knows that this is the Book of the Dead and it's called that for a reason, he would know. I mean, if anybody would know. I know he's not playing Ash. He's playing a priest. But on the fan level, super fan, I'm like, that's Ash. I mean, I'm just going to call him Ash. He knows what the book is capable of. Therefore, he says that. Anyway, great cameo. I love that. You didn't even see him. But you just knew that was him. I mean, who else better to deliver that line? Anyway, let's keep moving. So the vinyl plays, it releases the demon. Everybody dies. Just about. I mean, almost everybody dies. And that's exactly what was expected, right? Beth has to lose her loved ones. She's got to pick up the shotgun. She's got to gain the confidence to fight these off, right? The Deadites. And then the chainsaw and just all these badass, it is more the protagonist on the run until the very end where she's like, fuck this. I'm kicking this thing's ass, right? And that's what I loved. That was so in line with like Evil Dead. I would say, Evil Dead 1 and 2 are kind of like a, copy-paste sort of. To a degree. Not really. Don't hate me for saying that. They're not copy-paste per se, but they hold a lot of parallelism, right? But anyway, this movie carries a lot of parallelism to that kind of aspect of Evil Dead 1, where Beth goes through all this trauma, all this horror, and she kind of becomes a badass at the end, and it's awesome. And she's believable. The actress did a fantastic job, and if they make her the new generation Ash, I'm all for it. I'm all in. I think I would love that. But anyway, lots of creativity, goofiness, campiness, horror creativity as well, just aspects of the horror that they implemented that were so good. Alyssa Sutherland as Ellie, especially as the Deadite Ellie. Phenomenal acting. She killed it. Looked like she had a ton of fun. It was contagious. She made you laugh. She made you kind of go, oh shit. And she kind of just creeped you out and kept you in a tense mood. She really killed it. Her facial expressions, her movement, her voice, they alter it a little bit, obviously, as Deadites go. and she says the thing, and when she said the thing, I yelled so hard in the theater. I was like, yeah! And I don't know why I did that, but she goes, I'll swallow your soul. And then she finds out Beth is pregnant, and then she like touches the stomach, you hear the little heartbeat, and then she goes, 2 souls. And I was like, oh, it's so great. I mean, they're just having so much fun with it. It was perfect. And it sounded just like the scene from Army of Darkness, which I will play here in just a second, because another line is uttered where Beth is standing on the car, and it's towards the end of the film, and she's just fed up. She's done with this shit. And she raises the shotgun, and she goes, come and get some. And I was like, oh, dude. Ash Williams, right there.
Lady, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store.
Who the hell are you?
Name's Ash. Housewares.
I'll swallow your soul!
Come get some.
So great. I loved that so much. And you know, she uses the chainsaw as the final blow. Perfect. That's what we need as an Evil Dead film. You know, it's got to have the boomstick. It's got to have the chainsaw. It's got to have the cheesy, campy one-liners that are. I mean, at the way she delivered it was badass. I was like, let's go. I was rooting her on. I was like, this is sweet. But anyway, with all the hype aside, I really did highly enjoy this movie. I think you should all go see it. As a fan, you will love it, I think. And I can't speak for everybody, but as me, as a big fan of this franchise, I loved it. And yeah, I mean, I think there was only one thing that I really had a complaint toward, and that was towards the end, the demon manifests, right? It collects what it needs. It manifests into this creepy crawly, weird conglomerate of human bodies and stuff. And I think the premise was cool. I think because, the Kandarian demons from Ash vs. Evil Dead, they have really interesting forms. The one that is like almost like a, not mimetic in nature, but the one that kind of like teleports around when they break the circle in the TV show. That one, for example, right? Like that is a very interesting design, a very different humanoid demon. I don't know how else to put it, but anyway. And as they've always flipped through the books throughout the years, you always see really weird demon manifestations on every single page, right? So they do that, and I think they did it okay, but that's my only complaint, is when they kept the shadow and the darkness on it, I was like, holy shit, boss fight material, right? And then they showed it in full light, in full brightness, right? Because of like the car's headlights, or when they're like walking around it. And then I was like, oh, why? Why did they have to do that? Because it was perfect. And they had just the right amount of shade on it where it was perfect. And then they revealed it in full light, and I was like, why'd you do that? It was still creepy. And it was still like a creepy crawly, like if you're not into spiders, you won't like it. It's weird. It's abnormal. It's, it makes you think. It's like, ugh, what the hell? Like human centipede? It's just, it was weird. And it was the only thing that I kind of had a complaint towards, because if they kept it in the dark, it would have been perfect. But they brought it to light, and the design wasn't solid enough, for me at least, that it sold me on this is going to be a big fight, or at least a big accomplishment if she finishes off this demon, which she does, and it was badass still. But yeah, I mean, that's my only complaint. Everything else was really solid. The cinematography was creative, the direction was creative, the writing was fun, campy, goofy. I don't know how many times I'm going to say it. And yeah, I just overall, I really, really like this movie, and I've already talked about it for 21 minutes, if not a little bit more. with some cut time that I'm going to put in here. But I would highly recommend this film. As a massive fan, you got to go see it. I mean, we've been in an Evil Dead drought, right? Season 4 of the TV show was canceled. They stripped us of what could have been the coolest Evil Dead season or media that we would have ever seen. Mad Max style Evil Dead, just like the alternate ending from Army of Darkness. It was gonna be hype, and then we get left on the cliffhanger, just like Army of Darkness, alternate cut. So it was just like, damn, and so we've really heard nothing about the franchise for the last few years, ever since it got canceled. And so I think this movie, if you take it as a reboot, I think it does a great job. But I think it is a sequel in its own sense, or at least it takes place in an alternate dimension or universe, or, an alternate timeline or something like that. Great film. I can't wait to see if they do a sequel. I would assume they would. I know Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi were talking about producing these every few years, like every 3 or 4 years rather than every 10 years. So I hope they stick true to that, because I would really like to see where this could go, because at the end of the film, it connects back to the introduction of the film, and sets up a sequel. Not perfect, but I mean, it gives potential, right? It gives a lead as to where the films could go if they make sequels. So I think they set that up really well, and it wasn't in a way where you're like, oh, really? Now I gotta wait 4 years for another movie? They don't do it that way. They do it in a way where I can't wait to see if they do another movie, right? Like, very exciting, very fun, very goofy. It's the Evil Dead. They're an unstoppable, demonic force. So they're gonna keep coming whether you want them to or not. And that's how the movie ends, and it's perfect. The highlights for me were the lines. I mean, that delivery of "I'll swallow your soul" and "come get some," and the boomstick and everything referencing the originals. Flawless. And it wasn't too much, and it wasn't too little. It wasn't too little in the sense that they were trying to forget the originals, and it wasn't too much in the sense that, hey, remember this, remember this, remember this, remember this, remember this, to the point where it got really annoying and just kind of a cheap cash grab. It did it faithfully, it did it respectfully, and it delivered on a great film. Honestly, I loved it. I really did. And it was just fun. It was just fun. And I always say in all of my videos, I'm never going to give it a percentage score because I'm not a professional critic and that's not what I do. But I'm going to give it a score again. And I would probably sink this movie in around 90%. I think that is solid. I think a good, 85 to 90%, that's where I would sit it. Because it's not, when it comes to Evil Dead, I want more action. So for me, I just needed a little bit more action. It was enough to satisfy me, but it wasn't enough for me to be like, okay, hell yeah, this movie's on another level, right? Because I'm more of an action-adventure kind of guy, and so that's why I like Army of Darkness the best, because that's what it is, really. It's not horror at all. It's action-adventure. At least that's how I categorize it. So yeah, for me, it just lacked a little bit of action, and the very end where it shows the final boss, the final Deadite, and it was a little underwhelming. But yeah, other than those two complaints, which aren't really complaints, they're just kind of nitpicks, I'd give this movie a solid 90%. I really do think they did a great job here. It sucks not being able to see Bruce Campbell reprise the role, but you know what? He's done so much over the years, and he's given his all to try and get these, TV shows and movies going. So you know what? I gotta respect him, where respect is due, right? So, yeah, that's gonna wrap up my review of Evil Dead Rise, directed by Lee Cronin. Lee Cronin, thanks, man. You really did a good job. I will be buying this on disc as soon as it comes out. And if it happens to be in theaters within the next month, and I, at some point meet up with my friends for summer and it's still in theater, I will take them to the movie because I want them to experience this. This franchise isn't something you get to experience very often. So I really do appreciate that. And I love seeing a return to form. So, yeah. Sorry for keeping y'all around. I've talked about it more than 1/3 of what the film's duration actually is. So I'm going to hop off here. I hope you enjoyed the video. It was very impromptu. I just kind of came in, hopped on the camera, and just went right to discussing my thoughts. So sorry if you had to stare at my ugly mug for the last half hour. I apologize, but hey, hail to the king, baby. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the Evil Dead Rise review. Or, I'm sorry, Evil Dead Rise review. And, yeah, I really liked it. I hope you guys do too. Post down in the comments if you happen to come across this video what you thought of the film. What were your expectations? What did you come out? What was your feeling coming out of the film? What did you like? What did you not like? What were your favorite references? Was it Come Get Some? Was it I'll Swallow Your Soul? Yeah, just leave your opinions down in the comments. I'd love to read them. I'd love to discuss the movie with you because I'm a huge fan of Evil Dead. It's, you know, it's too OG, man. So, yeah. Anyway, that's what I'm going to call it. I will have the SpongeBob The Cosmic Shake Was It Good video review coming out tomorrow. So keep an eye out on that as well. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up, y'all. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out. I'll see you in the next one.